Most definitely.
I love that. Okay, so obviously this has been a strange couple of years, and you've maintained many different communities and joined them. How have you fostered that during such a disconnected time?
That's a great question, and one that I've really been prayerfully discerning myself with my spiritual director, um, intentionally, and with peers in my spiritual direction supervision group, is that in my situation's a little bit unique in the fact that many spiritual directors, many that I know in this community work out of their homes, or maybe they have a space at a church. And so there's not necessarily like an overhead cost, right? That actually requires you to keep paying the bills. And not that we don't all have bills, but I mean like a separate, a separate space bill.
Yeah.
And so as our brick and mortar yoga studio is the home for where I do in-person spiritual direction, that has shifted dramatically because we were mandated closed for 2 months as a yoga studio. And in that time period, graciously, our yoga students, we recorded some videos for them and just put them in a secret page on our website with a password and said, you know what? We're definitely not Peloton yoga. We don't have cameras on the ceilings and all this stuff. But we just did this because you're our community and we're passionate about taking care of you and serving you in this time, but we're not going to charge you. So here are these videos. Yes, we have to keep paying our rent. And if you feel so led, you can make a donation to our PayPal account toward a rent. And we're not paying our teachers. It's just to operating cost. And no, not surprisingly, guess what? The exact amount of our rent during that closure was donated through those videos.
That's amazing.
God is so cool like that. And it was just a great opportunity for us to trust and lean into our community. Well, most of my private sessions at that time switched to Zoom, and I've been offering spiritual direction before even Zoom, like when Skype was cool. And so I'm used to distance spiritual direction and have quite a few directees across, not even in the US. And so meeting online was not new to me, but I shifted all my local clients to online at that time. We did all the yoga videos online at that time. And then the only other piece that really felt disconnected for me was I love hosting retreats. So I have in the past hosted yoga and silence retreats where we'll go for an overnight stay. And it's been at Mercy Convent in Nashville, but they've been closed to guests. And so what does one do in that scenario when you want to keep offering retreats and connection because people need it, but you also want to be safe and not be together? So began offering an online community, which is just $5 a month, actually $4.99. And in that online space, those people were supporting the work of the podcast. And then I offered some retreat bundles there. And so we kind of went virtually on retreat in our little app and online.
I love that.
So that's been neat. And I have no idea. I'm trying to be open to, as things do return, I'm testing out my first in-person retreat at a private residential home of one of my retreatants in South Florida this summer. So that'll be my first dip the toes in the water to see what it feels like to be with people again in person and hold space for them. But connecting online now is such it's not new, but it's such a, there are so many new ways we can do it.
Oh yeah.
That I've tried to be open to that this year and not say, sorry, if I can't do it the way I've always done it, we're just not going to do it. And not always easy to pivot in those ways, but it's been a learning experience for sure. I've learned a lot and I've met a lot of cool people.
Yeah. the experience of like connecting online, what we knew it to be, has definitely
Right?
evolved
Like
way
it has
past.
just, it's people are so much more open to it than they've ever been. And I think
Yes.
they started seeking and searching. And it's interesting that I'm like, how did this person in Canada and Germany, how did they find our space?
Yes.
And what brought you here? Like
Right.
what brings you to this space that you're longing to connect with others in community who are also seeking peace and connection in their life. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a privilege to hold space for that. And I just really value doing it safely. And so I want to hold safe space for people in all
Yeah.
ways, not just in person, but also online, which is one reason we did it through the private app versus just on a Facebook page or something in
Yeah.
that nature, because there's a lot more ability to keep out what we need to keep out
Right.
and keep in what
Yes.
we have to keep in.
Definitely. You want it secure, you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trauma
Yeah.
informed. I mean, after my
Yes.
life, how could I not also really respect and honor safe spaces for other people? Because that's something that's been really important to me in the past. So I'm really passionate about that.
It's great. Um, that's very cool how you've been able to adapt and like maneuver this past year, and we're almost coming to half of this year.
See this gray hair?
I think we all have one called
That's
2020
that's
somewhere.
that's I call that 2020 and that 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for those who might be trying to find their own communities that you gained from this time?
That's a great question. I really think it's important for us to trust our spiritual companions and know their stories. And so I put a lot of myself out there. Like if you go onto my website or my blog, you may read stories about me naming and saying that I had anxiety or I've had depression. I think that the ability to be human and authentic and vulnerable takes us off of this follow me, put me on a pedestal, come do thou art thing that I want you to do. That's not my vibe. I want to be authentic and real. And I would encourage people to find others that they connect with, that they feel safe in their space, whether it's in person, online, in community, but that they also can get to know on some level, that there's not some just picture perfect internet person
Right.
out there, and that they can make connections with them.
Yeah.
And whether that's our my church body right now is still meeting online. We haven't yet met in person, and that's coming soon, but there's been a lot of factors and reasons that is the case. But I know, for instance, that someone whom um, I have a relationship with, because I shared that church service online, they kind of started visiting my church, right? And now they've
Right.
joined my church because they got to know it at a safe distance through the internet.
Yeah.
I think the internet gives us this really great ability to use your Enneagram 5 skills to research. If you guys who are watching this don't know, Enneagram 5s are great at like digging in and finding out more information and researching and getting the details. Get to know the people you want to journey with and take
Yeah.
this time of having so much access to things on the internet to do a little safe cyber stalking and dig back
Yeah.
through, read some of their words, watch some of their services, whether it's I've given some different examples, but whether it's listening to my podcast and knowing, this girl isn't my vibe, or yeah, I really appreciate how she connects both Christian spirituality and yoga and breath work, and that it's not a scary place to be.
Yeah.
So the internet can give us a whole lot of backstory, I guess. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I love that. It kind of gives us, like you were saying, just like room to try new things.
Yes, and be open to check it out. And here's a, I've never before gotten to go to 4 different worship services on one Sunday, or listen to 5 different spiritual directors podcasts to know which one might be more in tune with me.
Yeah.
It's just really empowering that we have so much access to content and resources. And you guys, day 7, I mean, you're a load of resources. You've got so many opportunities of people that are credentialed, and that, if I'm looking for something in particular, or somebody asks me for a referral, I'm going to go to a place I trust first, and then dig through those resources, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, this has been so beneficial and such a learning experience. And I'm glad to like see you and meet you and experience you in person.
I'm glad to finally meet you. This is in person, right? Like,
Yes, exactly. Like we were talking about.
this is totally in
um,
person. I'm glad to finally get to meet you, and I'm thrilled for your work with Day 7. It's been great to already see the great benefits you've brought to the team, and excited to see how you guys can continue to grow.
I appreciate it. Just lastly, where can our audience find you?
So if you remember my name, whitneyrsimpson.com is kind of my landing page that will take you to all the different things. The ministry as a whole is exploringpeace.com. So if you remember either one of those, they'll point you to the other, whitneyrsimpson.com or exploringpeace.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's so good to be here.